Welcome back, everyone. We are at part 6 of the Austro-Prussian War. We gotta continue this as we've been continuing, just like the Prussians have been continuing to wipe out the Austrians. You gotta watch all the other episodes if this is your first one. Just how it goes. Glad you're here, though. This is going to be a fun one. I'm not sure if it's going to be a fun one for the Austrians, but we got the Battle of Skalitz, June 28th, 1866. Let's jump into it. Let's go. Our situation is extremely favorable, for we are still united while the Prussians are far apart. I wonder what date this was written on, or which hour this was written on, because right now the Prussians are more united than you guys right now. Just saying.
On the morning of June 28th, there was a state of organized chaos at Benedek's Austrian headquarters, located in Josefstadt. The reports regarding the battles at Weißerkauf and Trautenau had arrived the previous night. Although Gablenz emerged victorious at Trautenau, his losses were nearly 5 times higher than those of Bonin's Prussian corps.
So was it a win?
Drawn through the Bohemian hills. Ramming's defeat at Weißerkauf had left him in a precarious situation, vulnerable to being outflanked. Throughout the day, Gablenz and Ramming had continuously requested and eventually demanded reinforcements in the form of more troops and artillery. Their goal was to decisively defeat the First Corps and overrun the isolated Fifth Corps. Since Clamgallus, positioned in the west, had failed to establish communication with the headquarters of the North Army, Benedek, still unaware of the situation, believed that his First Corps and the Saxons were holding their positions along the Isar River. Lacking this crucial information, Benedek made the decision to deploy the Eighth Corps, commanded by Archduke Leopold, from the west to Skalitz. Leopold was tasked with replacing Ramming. Ramming's defeat the previous day had significantly undermined his superior's confidence in him. The appointment of Archduke Leopold to this role was met with bewilderment, as sources described him as overweight, suffering from kidney problems, partially blind, and despised by his own soldiers.
Not a good description there. I'm just being honest.
Benedek issued orders for Gablenz to prepare for a strategic retreat toward Josefstadt, with the objective of protecting the North Army from the Prussian First Corps and the Prussian Guard. In the event that the Prussians were to appear with a larger force than just a single corps, the 2nd and 4th Austrian Corps were designated as available reinforcements to provide support. Despite this contingency plan, Benedek's primary intention remained focused on engaging the enemy around Glitschin, leveraging the advantage of fighting on ground of his own choosing and on his own terms. In the Western Front, Prince Friedrich Karl's First Army and Herwart von Bittenfeld's Elbe Army successfully encircled the 1st Austrian Corps at Königgrätz, resulting in a tactical victory for the Prussians, albeit at the cost of losing valuable time. On the Eastern Front, the Prussian Crown Prince's 2nd Army possessed extensive knowledge of the terrain. This location had witnessed several famous battles from Frederick the Great's era, such as Mollwitz, Hohenfriedberg, Soor, Leuthen, and Liegnitz.
I love how he has videos on all of these. I think, yeah, he has videos on all of these. He knows this guy knows the geographical area like the back of his hand at that point.
Which had taken place within a few miles of the current battleground. The Prussian officers were well acquainted with this terrain, having studied it through historical records, war games, and military maneuvers. With the forward corps of the Austrian army still separated from each other and positioned along the mountain passes that served as their respective axes of advance, the Crown Prince of Prussia faced the challenge of managing multiple responsibilities without being able to fully concentrate on any one of them. Taking a cautious approach, he opted to redirect the Prussian Guard eastward in order to alleviate the pressure on Bonin's First Corps, Gablentz, known for his determined leadership even in retreat, divided his corps to confront the advancing Prussian Guard. However, during the Battle of Burkersdorf,
that was Burkersdorf? Yeah, this is very zoomed out then.
Württemberg's Guard Corps intercepted Gablenz's retreating forces, resulting in a loss of approximately 3,700 men, including the majority of the Grevichik Brigade. Around 30 kilometers southeast of this engagement, Steinmetz encountered only a single corps blocking his advance towards Skalitz.
Uh-oh. Here we go.
The dispositions at Skalitz were nothing but brainless. Benedek's aide-de-camp, Chris Manick. The village of Skalitz is situated approximately 5 or 6 miles away from Wysoku. It is located along the Opar River and can be reached via a winding mountain road that passes through the giant mountains.
Once again, what is this dotted line? Is that, what border is that?
This road acts as a boundary between the Bohemian plain, where the Austrian army is stationed, and Silesia, which is being approached by the Crown Prince's army.
Maybe it's Bohemia and Silesia border.
Steinmetz strategically positioned his vanguard in Wysokow. Meanwhile, the remaining troops of the Prussian Second Army were moving towards Wysokow to reinforce him. General Louis Mutter's 6th Corps was leading the way,
it's a bunch of them,
crossing the hilly terrain and mountain passes in Bohemia. However, Steinmetz did not expect immediate assistance from them, as they would require the entire day to traverse the challenging mountain passes. Skalitz itself was a town with a population of around 4,000. It is situated on a 30-foot high plateau that is adjacent to the flowing Oper River, running in a north-south direction. Towards the north, there was a plateau that extended for half a mile. On the left front, there was a wooded area, while on the right front, there were open fields sloping gently downwards. Additionally, a railroad enters the town from the south, turned east and ran alongside a...
That's a railroad! That makes sense.
...high embankment that passes a wooded area. At 11 a.m., Benedek, accompanied by his staff, conducted a survey of the site on horseback. They first visited Raming's reserves in Trebisov before proceeding to the positions of the 8th Corps in and around Skalitz. Raming made a request for him to relocate his 7th Corps to Skalitz, with the objective of flanking any advancing Prussian forces from the left side. By combining the firepower of a corps with their cavalry advantage, Skalitz would have been an impenetrable position. However, Benedek did not believe that Steinmetz would initiate an attack. Consequently, he refused the request and allowed his army to proceed with their march towards Glitschin. This decision left Archduke Leopold alone, with only a single narrow bridge behind his vanguard. Overheard conversations revealed that Benedek had no intention of engaging in a battle at Skalitz.
I mean, he hasn't yet.
He departed, intending to oversee the march towards the Isar army in the western region. The plan was for Leopold and Raming to abandon the village and move to Glitschin if no significant battle had commenced by 2 p.m. As Benedek left, the Austrian forces completed their deployment. General Gustav Franiern's brigade took positions on the upper heights located behind the Dubno forest.
I will say, though, this seems like to be probably, I mean, we'll have to see, but it looks like it might be the best defensive measures Austria has had defending a city or an area so far.
General Leopold Kreisen stationed his troops north of the Ravenska Pond, and Schulz commanded the defenses around Skalitz. In total, Leopold's corps consisted of approximately 20,000 soldiers.
It's 5x the city.
The Prussian artillery initiated their attack from Wysokow, while the 9th Division of the Prussian army, consisting of 8 battalions and 3 artillery batteries, began their advance towards the Dubno forest. Although exact figures for the size of the Prussian army are unavailable, it can be inferred that Steinmetz's forces were of comparable strength to the Austrians, as he committed both the 9th and 10th Divisions to the battle. Benedek and Ramming encountered General Tassilo Festetics at the Austrian rear, who had moved up from Schweinsteigen. Despite pleas from Ramming and Festetics to reinforce Skalitz, Benedek refused their requests on 2 occasions and instead directed them to commence their march towards the west. In the background, the sounds of artillery fire and intermittent musket shots could be heard as Benedek returned to Josefstadt. Meanwhile, Steinmetz made preparations for a direct assault on Skalitz with his 10th Division. To ensure no Austrian reinforcements would arrive from the southern direction, he ordered a general advance.
Those people in the forest just look like they're going to get ran through, by the way, the Austrians.
Simultaneously, his 9th Division approached the Dubno forest. A battalion of Slovak soldiers stationed within the forest retreated hastily before any significant engagement took place.
Okay, never mind.
The Prussians swiftly pushed forward.
They're smart.
Upon emerging from the other side of the forest, the Prussian forces unleashed devastating rapid-fire volleys. The Slovaks suffered significant losses, losing half of their strength before retreating towards Kreisen's brigade.
Dang!
Observing these developments with uncertainty from the Alpa heights, Fragnen decided to take action. He remained without instructions from Leopold and became concerned that the Prussian 9th Division would soon cross the Dubno forest towards Zlik, thereby turning his left flank and penetrating into 8th Corps' rear. In order to disrupt this attempted envelopment, Fragnen opted to launch an attack with his 2 regiments, leading them down to the Dubno forest to repel the Prussian flanking column.
Okay.
At 12:30 p.m., Fragnen signaled the start with the sound of his bands, ordered his men to advance, and departed from their strong hilltop position. In a fervent display of determination, even the brigade artillery mobilized and joined the charge, descending the steep slope behind the infantry columns. The Austrian soldiers rushed towards the Prussians with bayonets. However, the initial Prussian
The needle guns are going to tear them to pieces.
salvo proved devastating, knocking down most of the Austrian officers and half of Fragnen's first wave of men. 14 horses were brought down with a single blow. A force of 6,000 Austrians crowded into the Dubno forest, only to be mercilessly cut down by the converging Prussian troops, who opened rapid-fire volleys from a distance of 400 meters. Fragnen,
400 meters of what? Dang.
while moving among his men, was struck by 3 bullets and lost his life. An attempt to find the senior surviving colonel in the brigade proved futile, as all other officers had either been struck down or had dismounted and sought shelter within the woods.
They're going to rout them if they just get past these people. It's over.
Within a mere hour, Fragnen's regiments, now in disarray, suffered a loss of 3,000 men and 6 cannons. Pursued by Prussian riflemen, the surviving Austrian soldiers sought to put as much distance as possible between themselves and the Dubno forest, inadvertently disrupting parts of Kreisen and Schulz's defensive lines in the process. In the center, Kreisen found himself inadvertently drawn into Fragnen's offensive. Despite still lacking orders from Archduke Leopold, Kreisen felt compelled to reposition 5 of his battalions towards the southwest corner of the Dubno forest in an attempt to rescue Fragnen's shattered brigade. Kreisen's battalions moved towards the advantageous cover of the Skalitz railway embankment too late. A regiment of Prussian grenadiers, responding swiftly to protect the left flank of the 9th Division from this unexpected attack, reached the railway embankment first. They quickly took cover behind it and unleashed rapid-fire volleys upon Kreisen's half-battalion formations, which arrived running. The initial wave of Kreisen's forces crumbled under the intense fire, while the second wave pressed forward with heavy losses, encountering an entire brigade from the Prussian 10th Division that had rushed down the railway and adjacent road to confront them. The intensity of the fighting escalated, resulting in mounting casualties. Austrian artillery batteries positioned at the entrance to Skalitz engaged in close-range exchanges of shrapnel and canister fire against the embankment. In response, Steinmetz's corps batteries, having descended from Weissokov to concealed positions within the Kleini Wood, retaliated with their own artillery fire. Archduke Leopold, taken aback by these attacks that occurred without his direct orders, dispatched a staff major through the dangerous no man's land to the railway embankment in an effort to command Chrysson's retreat.
Well, Leopold, you needed to act a little bit quicker than that. You've been just sitting on your hands this whole time.
However, to his dismay, he discovered that General Chryson, like Fragner before him, had been killed. His body riddled with bullets. Amidst the horror unfolding in Skalitz, Schulz's brigade observed the tragic turn of events as Chrysson's regiments were mercilessly decimated in the open clearing below them. In the afternoon, an adjutant arrived at Schulz's position carrying a retreat order that had been dictated by Benedek an hour earlier. However, the soldiers of the Schulz brigade, composed of Czechs and Germans, initially refused to retreat as they were eager to engage in battle after being stationed since 6 a.m. Still, they couldn't do anything because the battlefield was so crowded. To the north, approximately 400 intoxicated Ukrainian soldiers from the 13th Regiment disregarded orders and recklessly pursued Prussian fusiliers across open ground
they're done.
beyond the Dubno forest. They were easily mowed down by the accurate fire of the Prussian Dreyse needle rifles. By now, fighting had gotten so intense that some Prussian battalions of the 10th Division pushed towards the 8th Corps' only bridge to reach the railway station.
I'm surprised they didn't blow the bridge up yet.
Meanwhile, the Prussian 9th Division focused on
it's
turning
over.
the Archduke's left flank on the Alpa Heights.
Yeah.
2 Prussian regiments ascended the Alpa Heights and advanced towards the bridge as well. In the center, Steinmetz himself rode to the front lines, leading the assault of the West Prussian 47th Regiment on the railway station. Only the relentless shrapnel case shot from Leopold's reserve batteries and the valiant efforts of a hastily assembled Austrian rearguard managed to momentarily halt the Prussian onslaught, buying enough time for the leaderless brigades of Chryson and Fragnierne to withdraw. At 2:15 p.m., Leopold sounded the retreat, signaling the disengagement from the battle. During the retreat, many Austrians tragically drowned in the Oper. The congested streets and bridge impeded their escape. 2 regiments completely disintegrated, unable to maintain cohesion in the chaotic retreat. The estimated casualties were grim, with over 6,000 Austrians and 1,365 Prussians losing their lives. The Prussians,
Fragner's brigade and Chrysson's brigade, just did not go well, bro.
took approximately 3,000 prisoners, although less than half of them
40%?
General Chrysson's forces suffered 2,000 casualties in terms of dead, wounded, and missing, while General Fragniere's losses amounted to 3,200 men and 100 officers. The Austrian forces endured a staggering rate of nearly 800 casualties per hour. This translates to approximately 13 casualties per minute and nearly 40% of the engaged force.
Jeez.
The remaining Austrian soldiers found themselves caught in a retreat that rapidly deteriorated into a panic-stricken flight as the effects of alcohol and adrenaline wore off. While the Prussian losses were comparatively lower, several attacking Prussian battalions witnessed the loss of all their captains,
Wow.
and a number of generals fell while leading their brigades.
That's important for morale. Okay, where from here?
It is not our intention to permit ourselves to be drawn into a serious battle. Message
Message from Leopold to Chryson after his battalion got decimated at the railroad. A little late, Leopold.
from Archduke Leopold to General Chryson while his battalion was getting decimated at the railroad.
That's crazy.
The defeat suffered by the 8th Corps served as a prime example of the early battles that set the stage for the Battle of Königgrätz. It was marked by a failure in both command and tactics, characterized by uncoordinated charges launched by individual brigades. The Austrian corps structure posed significant challenges in terms of effective control with commanders often disregarding the authority of their deputies. In contrast, the Prussian side benefited from a more organized chain of command, enabling senior officers to have a better understanding of the overall situation. Following their retreat from Skalitz, the disordered 8th Corps hastily overtook Raming's more disciplined marching columns, forcing them off the Josefstadt road and into the adjacent fields. The 6th Corps would have to navigate its way to the Elbe River that night, relying on cross-country routes. While morale soared among the Prussian ranks, Moltke became increasingly concerned about the strategic limitations of Prince Friedrich Karl and issued orders for the First Army to relieve the pressure on the Austrians. Moltke, as the Chief of Staff, commenced the relocation of his entire headquarters to Bohemia that night, endeavoring to maintain communication with his armies in the field via telegraph. Upon learning of the developments at Burkersdorf and Skalitz, he instructed Crown Prince Friedrich Wilhelm's Second Army to hold its position and be prepared to establish contact with the advancing First Army in the Crown Prince's direction. The Bohemian campaign was far from over, and the outcome still hung in the balance. Neither the Prussians nor the Austrians could afford to make any further mistakes as they vied for victory.
I mean, the Prussians are in a really good spot right here, so they have room. But the Austrians, all they have is on them is manpower, I believe.
Thank you very much for...
So, like, that's the only thing that can save the Austrians, in my opinion, is overwhelming with manpower. Because their technological difficulties with the guns, their strategical nightmares with, you know, being aggressive, being passive, not knowing what to do between those two, has not led them to a good spot. So we're going to have 2 more parts to kind of put this into the rest. I was looking up, kind of like learning a little bit more about the Austro-Prussian War on the side. This channel, House of History, does have videos for the next 2 particular skirmishes or battles. And there are several more actually documented after that, like 5 or 7 more. But I don't think that this playlist covers those. I don't know if he's going to do those in the future, but we got 2 more. And yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Peace out. Bye-bye.